Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters in the fight against tyranny, buckle up, because today we're diving headfirst into the absolute bombshell that's shaking the foundations of the rogue Trump regime. Prime Minister Carney's historic visit to China, a spectacular trade diversification strike that costs Trump the tariff advantage and leaves no economic way out. Oh yes, you heard that right. This is the moment where Canada, our brave northern beacon of democracy, stands tall and delivers a devastating blow to the social fascist in the White House, turning his gangster-style blackmail into nothing but dust, exposing his imperial ambitions for the pathetic power grab they truly are, and proving once and for all that the world is waking up to his outrageous con game. Think about it, folks. Here we have Donald Trump, the ultimate con artist turned dictator wannabe, slapping outrageous tariffs left and right on our Canadian allies, thinking he can bully the entire North American continent into submission with his fentanyl-fueled excuses and his so-called America First nonsense. That's really just code for enriching his cronies while screwing over hardworking families on both sides of the border. He's doubled down on those punitive duties, hiking them up to 50% on steel and aluminum, claiming it's about some phantom electricity surcharges or drug flows, but we all know the truth. It's pure extortion, a desperate attempt by this rogue regime to cling to economic dominance that's slipping through their fingers like sand. And now, in the face of this unhinged aggression, Prime Minister Carney steps up, jets off to Beijing for a powerhouse 5-day summit starting next week, meeting face-to-face with President Xi to forge unbreakable trade ties that will flood Canadian exports into the world's second largest economy, doubling our non-US shipments and attracting billions in fresh investments that Trump can only dream about. Can you imagine the sheer audacity of it? Trump thought he could isolate Canada, force us into a corner with his tariff tantrums that have already cost our economy billions, hitting our steel mills, auto plants, and farmers harder than a freight train, but instead he's lit the fuse on his own downfall. Carney's move isn't just smart, it's a masterstroke of resistance, a frontline counterattack that diversifies our trade away from the unstable U.S. market, where over 70% of our goods used to flow like a river straight into Trump's pockets. Now, with energy deals on the table for Canadian oil and gas, agricultural pacts to lift those retaliatory barriers on our canola, peas, pork, and seafood, and massive collaborations in manufacturing and climate tech, Canada is pivoting hard to China, securing paths that boost our GDP, create tens of thousands of jobs, and leave Trump's tariff advantage in ruins. He's left with no economic way out. Folks, his bluster has backfired spectacularly, pushing allies right into the arms of competitors and proving that his social fascist playbook is nothing but a house of cards collapsing under its own weight. Let me paint the picture for you, because this isn't just about numbers and deals. This is about the soul of democracy, standing up to a bully who's acting like a gangster in a cheap suit, demanding tribute from neighbors while his own house burns. Remember how Trump invoked those emergency powers back in his first term, slapping tariffs on everyone from Mexico to the EU, citing bogus national security threats? Well, he's at it again, escalating to 35% on Canadian imports overall, threatening even more hikes if we don't bow down. But Prime Minister Carney isn't bending the knee. No, he's charging forward, resetting ties that were frayed by past tensions, but now blooming into a strategic partnership that balances cooperation with smart guardrails on security. Polls are screaming it loud and clear. A solid majority of Canadians, 54%, and climbing from the lows of 2020, want deeper trade with China precisely because of Trump's outrageous trade war. Seeing it as the lifeline to economic independence and growth that his rogue regime is desperately trying to choke off. Oh, and don't get me started on the hypocrisy dripping from every pore of this administration. Trump rants about China stealing jobs, while his tariffs force Canada to deepen ties with Beijing, creating a ripple effect where our exports surge, our ports buzz with activity, and his so-called protectionism turns into a self-inflicted wound that bleeds American competitiveness dry. It's like watching a mob boss try to shake down the neighborhood only to find out everyone's teamed up against him. Carney's visit, the first by a Canadian PM since 2017, builds on that pivotal meeting at the Asia-Pacific Forum last October, where handshakes turned into blueprints for billions in two-way trade that's already hit $118 billion and is set to explode. Energy, we're talking Canadian LNG flowing to power, China's green transition, agriculture booming as barriers fall, and manufacturing alliances that sidestep Trump's imperial grip entirely. This is resistance in action, folks, a spectacular strike that costs Trump his leverage and exposes his fascist tendencies for what they are. A desperate grasp at power that's alienating the world and leaving the U.S. isolated, economically hobbled, with no way out but to crawl back to the negotiating table on our terms. Rhetorically speaking, isn't this the ultimate comeuppance for a man who fancies himself a deal maker but can't even keep his closest ally from forging ahead without him? Think of it this way. Trump's tariffs aren't policy. They're blackmail, pure and simple, designed to punish Canada for daring to stand up on issues like human rights and fair trade. But in doing so, he's awakened a giant Canada, Europe, the free world. We're the frontline resistance against this social fascist wave, drawing inspiration from the greats like Churchill, who rallied against tyranny with unyielding resolve, declaring that we shall never surrender, and echoing that spirit today as we build coalitions that Trump's gangster tactics can't touch. Repetition is key here, people. Trump's rogue regime is outrageous, his imperial ambitions are failing, and his blackmail is backfiring. Say it with me. Outrageous, failing, backfiring. We've seen this movie before in history's darkest chapters, where demagogues rise on fear and fall on their own hubris. And now Carney's bold diversification is the plot twist that seals Trump's fate, turning his tariff advantage into a relic of a bygone era where bullies ruled unchecked. But let's zoom in on the details, because this visit isn't just symbolic, it's a concrete demolition of Trump's economic stranglehold. Picture Carney in Beijing from January 13 to 17, hashing out deals with Premier Li Qiang and top officials, focusing on energy where Canadian resources meet China's massive demand, agriculture where our farmers get relief from those 100% retaliatory hits that Trump provoked, and international security, where we collaborate deeply without compromising our values. This comes hot on the heels of Canada's own tariffs on Chinese EVs and metals. But unlike Trump's vindictive approach, Carney's is pragmatic, seeking mutual benefits that lift all boats while Trump's sinks his own. Experts are already buzzing. This could double our exports outside the U.S., attract waves of investment in critical sectors, and shield us from the volatility of a president who treats trade like a personal vendetta It's outrageous how Trump's actions have worsened tensions, slapping 10 to 25% duties, citing fentanyl flows that have nothing to do with legitimate trade, forcing provinces to unite against his war, and pushing Carney to declare that our close U.S. ties have ended, vulnerabilities turned into strengths through diversification. And folks, this is an assumption. This is based on the cold, hard facts pouring in from every corner. News wires screaming about Carney's pivot amid Trump's chaos. Social media ablaze with Canadians cheering the reset as a slap to the fascist south of the border, and economic analyses warning that Trump's protectionism is accelerating Canada's shift to Asia, where markets are hungry for our goods without the drama. He's left with no economic way out, his bluffs called, his regime exposed as the paper tiger it is. Remember Churchill's words in the face of fascism. We shall fight on the beaches, we shall fight on the landing grounds, we shall never surrender well. Today we're fighting on the trade fronts, in the boardrooms, and across the Pacific, building alliances that Trump's imperial dreams can't shatter. This is the pride of resistance, Canada and Europe as the vanguard, uniting against a rogue that's tearing down the rules-based order he pretends to defend. Interspersed throughout this triumph are the voices of everyday heroes, the farmers who've suffered under Trump's retaliatory firestorm, the workers in Ontario's auto sector, watching as Carney secures alternatives to U.S. dependency, the families seeing hope in a diversified future where Trump's blackmail holds no sway. Rhetorical question time. How long can this social fascist sustain his outrageous assaults when allies like Canada turn his weapons against him, forging paths that leave him isolated and impotent? The answer is not long, my friends. Not long at all. Repetition drives it home. Trump's regime is rogue, his ambitions imperial, his tactics gangster style, rogue, imperial, gangster. We've got history on our side, from the defeats of past dictators to the resilience of democracies that band together. And now Carney's strike is the catalyst, a spectacular diversification that costs Trump everything and gifts the world a blueprint for beating back fascism. As we wrap this up, let's channel that heightened emotion, that unbridled fury at the outrage unfolding in Washington. It's time for solidarity, for frontline resistance that doesn't quit. Join the fight. Subscribe to our network for more takedowns of this rogue regime. Catch our live events touring coast to coast, where we rally the troops against Trump's social fascism. And remember, we will never give up, never back down, never let his imperial ambitions dim the light of democracy. Together, we're unstoppable, exposing his gangster blackmail one spectacular strike at a time. Stay vigilant, stay outraged, and let's keep pushing until this nightmare ends.